This is the A33, or Accelerator 33, and it stands at a whopping 165 feet tall. And it is the largest slingshot in the world. But this is no ordinary slingshot. This slingshot is used for space travel, sending rockets to space. It's safe to say that it is causing a monumental shift in space travel, and it does it for only a fraction of the fuel used to get traditional rockets into space. Welcome to SpinLaunch. This video will give you an idea of why Time magazine voted SpinLaunch as one of the top 100 most influential companies in the world. But first, in order to understand the technology SpinLaunch uses and why, it's important to get a quick 101 on how traditional rockets get to space. Don't worry though, we'll keep it super brief and very simple. Space travel is fundamentally based on one equation, known as the rocket equation. The rocket equation was developed by Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, the Russian and Soviet rocket scientist who pioneered astronautics. Simplified, the rocket equation calculates how much a rocket's speed can change based on two main factors. Firstly, the speed at which the rocket expels or gets rid of its fuel, known as the exhaust speed. And secondly, the ratio of the rocket's weight when full of fuel to its weight after using up all of the fuel. The equation reveals that to increase a rocket's speed change, you either need to get rid of fuel at a faster speed or carry a lot more fuel compared to the rocket's empty weight. And it is precisely this principle which is why rockets need so much fuel for relatively short bursts of speed in space. And this exact issue, the massive fuel need, is what SpinLaunch is solving for. SpinLaunch is a US company focused on developing a kinetic energy-based launch system, aiming to catapult payloads into space. But the concept of a non-rocket space launch isn't new and dates back many decades. Ideas around catapults, space elevators, and other mechanisms have been discussed by scientists and enthusiasts alike for many years. However, the specific kinetic energy method SpinLaunch is pursuing is a unique twist on these earlier ideas. SpinLaunch was founded in 2014 by Jonathan Yaney. Yaney believed that the high cost of rocket propellant was a barrier to more frequent and affordable space launches. By using kinetic energy instead, SpinLaunch aims to significantly reduce the cost of sending payloads to space. In its early years, SpinLaunch operated quite secretly, avoiding media attention. The company was known to work on its technology in a facility in Long Beach, California. By the late 2010s, SpinLaunch had raised significant investment from various venture capital firms such as Kleiner Perkins and Google Ventures, and had plans to start suborbital test flights. The overarching goal of SpinLaunch is to create an alternative launch method that is cheaper and more environmentally friendly than traditional rocket launchers. In order to understand the technology used by SpinLaunch, it is necessary to go back in history, ever so briefly. The slingshot, often referred to as a catapult, or a sling in ancient contexts, has origins that stretch far back into antiquity. The sling, as a weapon of war and hunting, was known to numerous ancient cultures. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all had references or depictions of slings in their histories. One of the most famous accounts involving a sling is the religious story of David and Goliath, where David, a young shepherd boy, uses a sling to defeat the giant Goliath by hitting him in the head with a stone from his sling. Throughout history, the basic principle of the slingshot, using mechanical advantage to increase the velocity of a projectile, has remained consistent, but its form and materials have evolved considerably. SpinLaunch have used the traditional slingshot for inspiration and modified it for their own purposes. The core of SpinLaunch's approach is a massive centrifuge that spins a payload to extremely high speeds. Once the desired speed is achieved, the payload is released and catapulted into space, primarily using the kinetic energy accumulated during the spin. SpinLaunch has an arm that is driven round and round in a vacuum chamber, driven by an electric motor. And once the tip velocity is sufficient for it to be able to carry a spacecraft into space, they let go where the projectile would get to space in about 30 seconds. The sling here is a carbon fiber tether, which spins the launch vehicle until it reaches 5,000 miles an hour, sending it through an airtight membrane, zooming towards space. To reach the necessary speed, the tether has to be in a vacuum. This gets rid of the need to use all the fuel that traditional rockets consume. However, there will be some gas used in the engine to help complete the journey into orbit, but it will be a mere fraction of what's used in traditional rockets. The numbers here sound crazy, but this isn't the first time this has been done. Project HARP which stands for High Altitude Research Project, managed to get a projectile to 180 kilometers of altitude with a high-powered gun back in the 1960s. And that altitude record still stands today. And this is where Yaney got his inspiration from. One of the primary motivations behind SpinLaunch's technology is to significantly reduce the cost of sending payloads to space. By minimizing or eliminating the need for expensive rocket propellants, SpinLaunch aims to make space launches more affordable. Without the need for large amounts of rocket fuel, and with a more simplified launch infrastructure, SpinLaunch intends to increase the frequency of launches. Their system is designed to be rapidly reusable, potentially allowing for multiple launches in a single day. The SpinLaunch system is primarily focused on launching small satellites into space. As the demand for small satellite deployments, like satellite constellations for global internet coverage, grows, SpinLaunch hopes its unique method will be a go-to solution for these kinds of deployments. Traditional rocket launches can have environmental impacts, from the production and burning of propellants to the potential for rocket debris. SpinLaunch's approach, by reducing or eliminating the need for these propellants, aims to be a more environmentally friendly alternative. SpinLaunch represents a new era for the space age, and SpinLaunch is looking to develop a centrifuge that is 3 times the size of the A-33, at close to 600 feet tall. With this, they hope to be able to start putting things into orbit before this decade is out. In so doing, they will change the face of space travel forever.